on people that we're relying upon for our everyday life. That would be the complete wrong outcome here. So the federal government does have to step in and help out states, just like they've helped small businesses and big businesses. They should help the states. That doesn't mean they should return the states to perfect financial condition. On the other half of the bill, and you did ask me about that, there are some things in there that are much more aimed at a recovery than the current position we're in. In addition to that, if we really want to get the people back to work that Chairman Powell was talking about, we need to reopen the economy. Those people earning less than $40,000 a year are very important, and we rely on them. But think about the healthcare system. The healthcare system is 20% of our GDP. If we get our healthcare system back up and running, a lot of people in the lower wage bracket end up working in the healthcare system. We need that to happen. If we get people going back to work, think of what it means to go back to work. You get in your car, you drive, you go to the gas station.
It's not either or, it's a how, right? And part of what Congress would be doing is figuring that out policy-wise. The administration is floating the idea of a payroll tax cut, slashing the corporate tax rate, suspending capital gains on assets bought between now and the end of the year. How does any of that help the people who are in pain now?
Well, Margaret, we have to decide where we are. Are we responding to the crisis? Or are we trying to stimulate recovery? And look, this is a very difficult situation because the federal government sits on top, and then each state is going to decide what we're doing. If we're trying to respond to the crisis, we're right, and this is where I agree with the speaker. We have to get the states money to help them respond to the crisis. If we're trying to stimulate economic growth, which would be the second half of the equation, we would use a different set of tools to stimulate economic growth. And we have a huge toolbox of tools we can use to stimulate economic growth.
But those specific proposals, payroll tax cuts, lowering the corporate interest rate, does that do any of what you're talking about?
Well, look, payroll tax cuts puts money in the pockets of people who are working.
Right.
Right now, we're talking about the unemployed people.
Exactly.
Payroll tax cut doesn't help an unemployed person, so I'm not in favor of a payroll tax cut.
So what are you saying? Are you saying more direct?
Back to work.
Okay, but are you also saying more direct aid to people? Because one of the questions around extending unemployment benefits as a unintended consequence of people actually sometimes making more on unemployment than if they take the option to go back to the employer that maybe furloughed them. So what's the solution there?
So Margaret, look, I think you just hit on a very important concept. When we first started the enhanced unemployment benefits, we did it for a specific purpose. We wanted to, and we needed to get people out of the economy. We needed them to stay home. So we changed the definition of unemployment. We said, look, stay home. Don't look for a job. We don't want you to leave your house. Now I think we have to go back to the more traditional definition of unemployment. If you're unemployed, you get benefits. But if you need to be looking for a job, and if you get offered a job, you should have to take that job and you should come off of unemployment benefits. We need to transition out of the extraordinary measures that were justifiable 60 days ago, 90 days ago, into the real world of what is the continuous definition of unemployment.
Two things. Do you think equity markets are behaving rationally? And are you accepting the idea that the tax cuts that you personally helped usher through for the Trump administration may have to disappear, as so many on Wall Street are predicting, to pay for all of this?
First of all, I have said it and I'll say it again. We now understand that we have to be in a position as a federal government to spend $2 to $5 trillion in a moment's notice to support our infrastructure and support our economy. That said, we need to sit down and look at both sides of the equation. We need to sit down and look at the revenue side of the equation, and we need to look at the expense side of the equation. So I would say, yes, that the tax situation in the United States has to be readjusted. Everything should be on the table. But remember, the expense side of the equation, everything should be on the table as well. As far as the stock market goes, remember the stock market...
So your tax cuts, you mean, you accept, would likely have to go away?
So I think everything is on the table. And remember, Margaret, I think the tax cuts are completely misconstrued. We gave big tax breaks to lower income earners, and we taxed higher income earners. And in fact, in the HEROES bill, you'll see they're trying to roll back the SALT deduction. The SALT deduction was a way that we taxed most of the higher earners. Only the top 30% of earners really use the SALT deduction. They're the ones that own the big homes and pay the big real estate taxes and pay big state income taxes, then they're using that deduction. Rolling that deduction back does not make sense right now when the federal government needs money in this environment. On the stock market, look, the stock market is very forward-looking, and I think the stock market, like Chairman Powell, is fairly optimistic of where we're going to